Better Vision. It's a place where you can connect all your fantasy, daily fantasy, and sports betting and track everything in one place. Also, make sure you can get all the best odds. Our new product coming out in about 4 weeks is a props odds comparison tool. So right now you can get spread, total, money line. Make sure you're getting the best odds for any event. But adding the props odds comparison tool. So hopefully you check it out. Happy to have Steve, Johnny, Erica, and Scott here to talk about prop bets. Hope you guys enjoy it. See you guys later.
Okay. I guess we can start with the introductions here. So I'm Steve Belanda. I'm with RotoWire and also do sports betting picks for bookies.com.
Hey guys, I'm Johnny Christoffi. I'm from Pittsburgh. You can find my work on Twitter at Johnny Freakin' Fantasy. That's why I could fly under. You might have seen me on some YouTube podcasts. I talk specifically IDP football, not only in fantasy but on the bet side as well. So if you're looking for really good content out there, right now some hot topics are sleepers. We're looking at all the three big IDP positions: DL, defensive back, linebackers. Sleepers, we do mock drafts. I'll let you guys drop one in a week. You guys can listen and talk. I'll talk to you about what the computer picks, my picks, where my head's at, what picks I really liked in the draft. So basically, I just love talking IDP. It's an underrated niche part of the fantasy football community. Only 12% of fantasy football leagues are IDP, and I'm trying to put that on the map. So if you see anybody out here repping IDP, whether it's my company, IDP Plus, any kind of other fantasy site that does IDP work, give me a follow if you're interested or if you're in the community. I'm trying to put this community on the map. And anybody here who's repping IDP, you're going to do me a solid and help the fantasy community. So we'll talk more about the betting coming up, but I'll pass the baton here to Erica, right?
Yep, Erica. Hi guys, I'm Erica Davis. I work for Fox Sports. I am a sports gambling journalist. I also have just started at FSAN. I have a new show launching called Front Porch Fantasy in a couple of weeks on FSAN. I've also worked as an on-air betting analyst for NASCAR. I would say my loves are NFL, college football, and motorsports. I picked up IndyCar, something that I covered this year. It's new to me, but I'm loving that as well. And then my whole brand of betting is responsible gaming, responsible gambling. I do picks on my Instagram, and I call them pocket change picks, where I encourage people to have fun gambling, doing it responsibly by literally only betting the change that they have in their pocket, so that they don't lose more than they can afford to lose.
Well, thank God I have nothing in my pocket today, because I will lose nothing. But when I get home, I might. Anyway, I'm Scott Davidson. I am the iHeart Sports gambling expert for the country and on all of our iHeart platforms. I also work in Cleveland on WTAM 1100 as the sports betting expert on our Browns pregame. And for the last couple of years, 2 years running, I did Cavs pregame sports betting segment on air, and I did the Guardians this year until they had a bit of an issue, and we're on a little bit of a pause right now after what happened. But those were affiliated with Bet365 and Caesars. So again, I've been doing sports betting professionally for 40 plus years and have been on the air with it in addition to other things on the radio for a long time. And with that, should we open it for questions, or what are we going to do? Or one of you guys want to kick it off? Go ahead.
Are we on? We're rolling.
We let the guy from Pittsburgh go first. Boo! How'd that happen?
You guys right here. You come find me later. And I just wanted to say, now that we're opening up to the bet side, I also talked about putting IDP on the map in fantasy, but there's a very niche community on the betting side as well. I also do, as well as podcasting for fantasy football, I also do podcasting for bets. If you look on YouTube, our main flagship will be IDP Plus, the plus sign. But under there's three little subscripts, and one of them being IDP Plus Bets. If you give us a follow there, that's why we're off IDP Plus. We're offense as well as defense. I specifically do a show with a co-host where we look at DraftKings every week through the season. We'll be looking at mostly linebackers, defensive backs, and defensive linemen, and I'll look at their tackle props. I don't do sacks, because if you're a guy who can, call the sacks, you should be on ESPN, in my opinion. It's tough out there. So what I like to focus on in my fantasy research and betting is the tackles, right? So week 1, we might get a line of Zaire Franklin, 8.5 tackles. I'm going to advise you to steer away from that. Let's see what the Colts are going to do. I'm sure Zaire Franklin's going to be out there 100% of snaps, but bottom line is big names, they're tough to gauge. We're talking about Divine Diablos, his under 7.5. DraftKings has him at. I'm telling you to take that line. I come up with 3 picks per week, all tackles. Could be overs, could be unders. My co-host comes up with the same. And then we kind of see where we're at throughout the year. I believe I'm a modest guy. I don't like to brag, but I do believe I was 58% with my picks last year. And, I want more, but some people that are in the betting community more than myself have told me 58% is pretty darn good. So
Do that again, and I'll start following you. That's really good. I mean, seriously, that's hard to do. So is that the first year you did that?
That was the first year I did that.
Congratulations. That's outstanding.
And I really don't find much content out there on it. And again, put on IDP on the map. This is something that, you might know something watching our videos and podcasts. You might know that Jack Sanborn for Dallas might play 100% of snaps. We're eating that information and we're putting that out to you. I was a kicker in high school at my alma mater. I played soccer. I am not telling you who's going to blitz the A-gap unless I hear it from somebody else. I'm not the most football knowledge, but I accumulate stats. I look at the stats, and I, more so reactive sometimes, proactive. And I always say stay in your body about it. I might give you 3 picks. My co-host gives you 3 picks. I've hit 1 or 2 6-leg tackle props last year, and I put $5 on them. I don't hit the 6-leggers very often, but you're looking at a payout of $1.20. So there is money to be made there. If you're sitting here saying offense is more of your bag, that's okay. Take one or two of my picks that I give you every week and throw that in your prop bets too. Sometimes I throw in Kirk Cousins over 125 passing yards. Give me that little juice in my bets, and I try to stay in my body about it, but try to stay modest. But sometimes you get carried away and you see these lines and you're like, wow, this is for example, Zach Vaughn, he was at 6.5 tackles week 4. Zach Vaughn's a 100% player. They're not catching up to this yet. And that's my job in the niche community, is to kind of blow that up, but I want to keep it on the hush for you guys too, so they don't catch on too much.
One thing I do want to mention, which we kind of talked about in our first panel, in the Sports Betting 101 panel, because we are not technically in season yet, we don't have week-to-week prop bets lines yet. So I'm in on a couple of, or several actually, futures markets prop bets. And one that I talked about was Chiefs Broncos to finish in the in the AFC West 1 and 2. And I worked on an article with Will Hill, one of our writers at Fox Sports, earlier this week, and I found it very fascinating, his rationale, and his rationale was really surrounded on Rashawn Slater, who just had that season-ending injury. And we all know by this day and age that you cannot count out a Harbaugh, like, ever. And what Jim has done with the Chargers, turning around that culture, helping them be what I think was a contender until the Slater injury, I think is a really interesting thing now to look at, now that they don't have Slater. So one of the prop bets that I'm on already, because of Will Hill, or that I am on, that you guys probably can't get now because it was at DraftKings at plus 340, is Chiefs Broncos to finish in the AFC West at 1 and 2. And I told them earlier that when we put that article out, that line was still available. I checked it this morning, and it's not on DK at all. I don't think FanDuel has it. So that is something that I'm on now, since we don't have anything to bet on with the season having not started. And I got some others, but I'll pass the mic along to. And I already know what you think about futures and those prop bets, but I'll still pass the mic to you. So.
It's a downer what I'll say about futures, but so I'll ask if you guys have any questions about them or prop bets, because I think it's helpful to have a lot of interaction here. We did that in the first session. We got some great questions, rather than me just pontificating about things you may not be interested in. So, yeah, go ahead in the back. If you could stand up so we can hear you. It's hard for me, especially. I think I'm deaf.
So we're talking about prop bets. So
yep.
I'm just curious from your guys' perspective, what do you think are like the softest and the easiest prop bet markets? Because like you say, sacks is hard. softer market where you can, be a little easier to get.
Yeah. So, well, soft team means the easiest to beat, right? Is that what you mean?
More predictable.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the one to answer that. I'm going to let somebody else do it. I will say that I like to look at individual matchups in games rather than future props and long-term props. I said this in the last session that I have more success with those. But these guys, I mean, again, I'm more of a straight and I do props, straight and over-unders and team totals and so forth. But I'll let these guys who do props every day answer.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I should just stick to doing only props, and not bet on individual games, because that's, I win all my money on props and I lose it all on individual games personally. So in the prop markets, I'm like at the beginning of the season, before the season starts, I will actually go game by game of every team's schedule and just put down, okay, do I think that's a win for this team, a loss for this team? I'll go through the whole way and then just see where the gap is between what I'm predicting and what the market says, what the line is set at. And, if I see a couple game gap there, then those are the ones that I'm going to bet on. And I've had a lot of success with that. I also think that betting division winners is one of the easier ways to go, because, like, if you just look at it, nowadays it tends to be just who has the best quarterback and the division. And I prefer to bet on, I like to find the teams that are have the second best odds to win, and so that I'm getting a better payout if it does hit. But generally, if you're looking at division winners, just take the better quarterback, and that's what has been working for me.
I thought of something I should have said. One of the things I said in the last seminar, you'll figure out what the softer markets are yourself when you start tracking your own bets. And then after a year or two, 58% is great. If that maintains itself, you'll know why when you start to analyze that. Long-term success is where you'll be able to ferret out what's working. You already know, except I don't know if you know exactly, that you're winning on the props and losing on the straight bets. If you really know those accurate statistics by tracking everything you do and you have to do that, you will figure it out yourself eventually. And you will probably stop betting straight bets, because why do you want to continue maintaining something that you're not successful at? And if you don't do that, you're never going to know.
To your point, though, about division winners, right now the Texans are, I think, plus 115 to win the AFC South. And when I look at that division, I think that's, one of the best values that you can get currently. Now, I don't know what it is now. That's what it was last night. But I think that will be a prop. If you really want to have your money being held all season long, waiting for that to pay out, I would go. That's something that I would be on. AFC South, Texans, plus 115.
For the defensive side, I think it's fairly easy, and what I try to do on my podcast and my betting show is just teach you. I was a former teacher, although I was a gym teacher. Don't ask me why I left the industry. It's the best job you could have. But as a teacher, what I want to do is teach you how to read the defensive side of the ball. So week one, for example, when prop betting for tackles is not a bankable time, right? If we turn back the clock a year ago, I was sitting on this stage saying Trenton Simpson was going to be a breakout linebacker. Looked like he was going to be somebody playing 95 to 100% of snaps for Baltimore. Trenton Simpson, by week 3, if he was on any fantasy teams, he was probably dropped, as we know if you play IDP. So it's a very volatile game in the beginning of the season. When I throw bets, it's $5 bets on 3 or 4 leg parlays. I'm staying modest with it. But as we go through the season with whatever we have, whatever realm we have aspect of betting, we get more clarity. So I'll give you a good example here. Logan Wilson, linebacker for the Bengals. Looking through the metrics, the stats of him last year, why I'm high on him as a top 15 linebacker is looking at the 11 games he played before he missed with injury. All 11 of those games, he had no less than 8 tackles. He might have had more than 8 tackles in some of those games, but all of those 11 games, he had at least 8 tackles. If I see Logan Wilson week 1 at 6.5 over and under, I'm probably taking that over. Jack Sanborn's, who I really like this year, he's a sleeper. So I'm going to let it week 3, week 4, before I start throwing him there to build in some consistency. Then when we get to week 10, we can say this player has hit over 7 tackles 9 out of 10 weeks. Very good odds there, 90% of the time, right? We can start looking at maybe there's injuries. Maybe we're hearing things in the weekly practices that he's going to, if not playing 100%, why he will. So I'm not sure if DraftKings follows it like that, but I do notice outliers, and that's what I'm trying to pick. Very rare you'll have top players that you find values on. That's why you listen to our work, and you hear me talking about tackle props so that we can find the nitty-gritty. You don't need to do that work. Whether it's my podcasting or my betting, I am reading all this information from the writers and reporters and coaches and just regurgitating it to you guys to help you. And one day you won't need my show. You're going to watch it for a couple weeks, and I'll teach you how to do this. And once you learn it, it's forever in your brain.
I was going to say, one thing that we talked about on the last panel was how staying informed helps you stay more engaged. As sports bettors, I think it's easy for us to look at the lines and, we just inherently know because we do it so much. But I'm from the school of thought that I can give you all the information, but if you are not engaged because you're entertained yourself, then at some point it just goes over your head. So, for example, I love, Caitlin, WNBA. I love Caitlin Clark props, and I also love Paige Becker's props. But I love their props because I can tell you what's going on off the court for them. I have definitely followed their stats, but for you, if you follow them as well and know what's going on at WNBA All-Star Weekend, you have a different kind of vested interest in what might happen on the court. So I do feel like, listen to what I'm telling you, but also do your own research, because I really do feel like it helps you become more well-rounded and better equipped to make picks when I'm wrong. Because even though I'm only betting $5 or $10 on my pocket change picks, sometimes that shit is wrong, and I want you to be able to to say, well, I have all the information in my pocket, and this is why I disagree with Erica, and this is why I will go on her show and tell her why I disagree with her. So I do think that does add some value too as well.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of the Caitlin Clark talk, and that's. I do WNBA bets for bookies.com. You can go there. All the picks are free. But yeah, with Caitlin Clark, she's just an example of somebody who has so much hype that you want to take unders. I've done so well just taking the under on her points totals because what she's capable of, but in this offense, she's just been a facilitator a lot more than a scorer. So
do you take the over on her assists? Typically,
I usually just stay away from that. I'll usually just go with points, but yeah. So yeah. And you can apply that to football too. The past 2 years, I took the unders on the Jets win totals because it's just okay, Aaron Rodgers is here. He was the missing piece, and I got lucky. Of course, I got lucky when he got injured and the team was a mess. But then last year, again, they were under the win total. So just a lot of times, just follow those teams. If you're going to do a future bet, follow the team on the, take the under on the team that's overhyped.
Here's a great point. When you talk about Caitlin Clark, and the same thing applies to superstars in any sport, the public is in favor of overs. They want to bet overs. Nobody likes to sit there and go miss, or go out of bounds, please. So when you get these superstars, you get inflated lines that are, if you're really thinking outside the box, you're able to find unders that have value because people are A, over betting these superstars on overs, and B, nobody wants to bet unders in the first place. So it's a thought process and a theory rather than any particular thing that I'm talking about. But on superstar players like that, whether it's WNBA, NBA, NFL, I don't care what, there are those opportunities there.
And I know that everyone is not on the same page when it comes to how advanced or how novice you are as a bettor. But if you're more of a beginner bettor, one resource that I love to use is John Ewing at BetMGM. He does a really good job of posting where the public is. So basically where most bettors are when it comes to a certain market. So if you are ever in limbo, about a bet, NFL or otherwise, check out John Ewing on Twitter, on X, or whatever you call it. He's really, really good about making it comical and entertaining, but also saying this is where the public is. And then you can choose to fade the public, or you can choose to go with the masses.
I'd choose the fade more times than not. Those hotels weren't built on the follow.
That's a good point.
Any of you guys want to address anything else in that question? Before we have a question back here from my friend.
Brandon.
My name is
Brandon.
I want to know some more into maybe it's like, again, I know we have draft, we have Canada, I know we have better. What would you recommend maybe someone just kind of starting, just kind of get into this? Obviously, ESPN the best. Like, what is kind of your recommendation if you just get into this? Maybe kind of look at the draft, how you talk about something or you all.
Where are you asking for a recommendation for like a sports book to use?
You could go there, but also someone just kind of more kind of get into this space. What would you say is direction?
Ooh.
Direction for.
Like, you mean like direction for placing prop bets, or just direction for betting in general? Oh, sheesh. Okay.
Well, you're in the right spot.
I know, right? I know. They're so okay. So, that's a good. It's a broad question, but I think it's a really good question. I would say the baseline is just understand the language. Understand the language. We talked about it in the first panel, our first panel a few minutes ago, where people don't sometimes understand what the money line is and what the number next to the money line is, what the spread is, what an over-under is. I would say have a baseline understanding of that, and then also have a baseline understanding of what you will win when you bet however much you bet. I talked about the Action Network having a tool like their betting calculator, betting converter, very simple tool. You can have it on your phone, you can have it on your computer, where you can put in how much you would win based on how much you would bet. So I would start there. The language, the baseline language, and then a betting calculator. And then also being committed to having a bankroll, knowing how much you can spend that's separate from your actual bank in your checking account or your savings account, and knowing not to commingle those accounts. And when you set your bankroll, knowing this is what I'm going to spend for the season, and that's it. So those are like a few jumping off points that I think a beginner better needs to know.
And I'll add to that. To me, it's kind of like shopping for car insurance, right? If you stay with the same company, you're going to get the rates jacked up on you. So the best avenue to do it, and I don't have the fortune to do this because I have to roll strictly with DraftKings at this point. I'm not sure if there are any other defensive props out there. FanDuel last year, as of last year, did not have tackles. I'm not sure if they had sacks, but I don't go down the avenue of sacks. But again, it's best, I think, if you, especially in offense, the gates are open. You can sit there with your computer. You can open up 3 or 4 of these big betting apps and say, maybe with this parlay or this single, I get better odds with this particular book. You might find that one's more navigable than another. And to me, DraftKings is what I know. I'm hoping that this season there's more companies out there that start putting tackle props in there, because it would be advantage not only in IDP but in any kind of aspect of betting to say, hey, we have different odds here. We're going to shop around now for that health insurance. We're going to shop around for our best odds. So I think find what works for you. For me, DraftKings is very easy to navigate. I am on FanDuel for offense. I think that's a little bit tougher, but to me, that's a big turn on or turn off from the jump. So, what is your specialty in betting? Is it tackle props? You might be limited to. Is it offense? Then shop around for the best odds. Is my suggestion there.
Actually, my suggestion would be you got to be signed up with multiple sports books so that you make sure you get the best odds. I'm signed up with everyone. I'm not a huge bettor. I will bet on everything, but I'll just put 10 to 20 bucks on it. So I'm betting all the time, but I'm not at risk of losing it all on any given day. I know in the intro, Brett mentioned the tool that he has that they're going to have for being able to check the lines across different books. We do have that at RotoWire already, and we have a tool. We have an app for it, so you can download the RotoWire Picks app. It's free to download. It gives you a free pick every day from each sport. If you want to get every pick, then you have to have a subscription, but it's definitely worth checking out because that way you don't have to go to 10 different sports books to find the best odds. You'll just find it at RotoWire. And then we also have, like, within that tool, we have sportsbook odds, DFS odds, what the lines are set at there. Like, so this is all for player props. So like I was looking at it earlier, like if you think DK Metcalf is going to have a big year this year, which I think he is, his line at FanDuel right now is 925 yards. He had more than 970 last year. I think he's going to be the whole passing offense this year. So I think he'll have over 1,000 yards. We have him projected for 1,000 yards at RotoWire. And at other sports books, his line is set at like 975, 1,000 yards, somewhere around there. So go to FanDuel to get the best odds there. At RotoWire, that tool makes it easy for you to find the best odds. And then you'll also, with every one of the sports books, of course, they want you to join, so you get great bonuses up front. So I take advantage of all those. Like if they've got that deposit match bonus, like go ahead and if you have the money to do it, then if they'll match your deposit up to 100% for whatever the number is, take advantage of it.
Hey, what's up?
So, do you guys stick mostly to like the main books, like DraftKings, FanDuel, what do you think of like your prop, apps and whatnot, and price breaks and all those, like, big difference, like, when they do something different?
So we're having a side conversation. I don't use those. I stick to the main sports books, and then for the companies that I work for, I stick to North American sports books. Although I do know like there are offshore books that people use, but when it comes to like the Prize Picks, the Underdog Fantasies, I don't personally use those. I do think that there is some value in those books or at platforms or apps, whatever you want to call them, because I do recognize that not everyone's a diehard gambler, which I think is totally fine. Even though I am a sports betting journalist, I don't bet the kind of money that some high rollers bet, because that's not my brand. My brand is responsible gambling, and I do think that Underdog and Prize Picks do offer people an opportunity to gamble, but not feel like they are doing something nefarious. But what I can say, I wish that there was more of a teaching opportunity for those platforms, because I think that people get sucked in thinking, oh, I'm not gambling. It's an app. They found ways to get around like the red tape of not calling themselves gambling sites, but ultimately they are. So I wish people understood them to be that, so that they would take it more seriously with their habit form, like with the habits that are forming. But short answer, no, I don't use those. I just use like the big ones.
Yeah, and I live in Wisconsin where we don't have legalized gambling yet. So you can go to, there are a couple casinos that you can go to, and and they have sports books now. And yeah, I'm in Milwaukee, so Potawatomi. But yeah, so you don't have that convenience of being able to bet from home. So I use Prize Picks a lot. I use Underdog, Pick 6 for DraftKings. Like, again, I'm signed up for all of them because I took advantage of all the bonuses up front, match your deposit type bonuses. And I'd say, like, just like with anything, you have to be, that's tougher because you have to do a parlay on everything. So even if you're the best bettor in the world, and the best bettors will maybe get like 60% of their bets right. Now you add in that you have to do a parlay, and you do the math on that, and it's down to 36%. Even if you're the best bettor in the world, 36% to win. So I found that if you're disciplined, I think you can make money off of it, because they always will have like where they like cut the line. It might be that you can only bet $20 on it. Like they'll set a maximum that you can put on it. But if you can take advantage of those kind of things where they're cutting what the line is, or you can do adjusted lines in there too, and you're not going to win as much, but you have a much better chance of winning, of course. Yeah, I mean, they're all fairly close, but I mean, every little bit counts, you know. So like that's like I literally anytime before I make a bet, I do use the tool that we have at RotoWire to see where the best line is.
Which you need to do with any kind of bet, whether it's, I mean, and there's free tools out there. I was talking about some of them. Scores and Odds is just a good app. It's got a whistle in the middle of it. It's green. And then this is not for props, though. And I know we're in a prop thing, but I mean, you're asking about this. So for spreads, over-unders, team totals, you can look at, 5 books at once, just and shop. But that's when you're a little more sophisticated and know where you're heading. I mean, when you're just starting off, the question started with what's the basics, The basics are, I think you made the best point, understanding what you're doing, tracking what you're doing, and playing on paper at first before you really dive into this. Even if you're just doing it for $10, there's no reason to lose money when you're trying to learn. You could do the same thing on a Google spreadsheet before you really begin for real.
I don't think I realized that you had to do all parlays on, and that's another thing that we talked about a little bit in the first panel. Parlays are very attractive to recreational bettors, and there's nothing technically wrong with them. But if you are really wagering and betting to really try to win, parlays are more like playing the lottery. Which goes back to my point of why I feel like those platforms don't have as much of an educational perspective or aspect to them, because as a sports betting journalist, I'm not gonna tell you in good faith to go freaking bet all your money on parlays. I'm not gonna do that. But you go to the Underdog or whatever, Prize Picks, and like, oh, parlay. Like, no one who's really an informed journalist in the sports betting space is gonna tell you to do that. So
I'll take it a step further. I'm going to tell you not to do it. Seriously,
yeah.
I've bet for 40 years. I've known every sharp person from Billy Walters and to Phil Mickelson, to them all. Nobody wins at parlays long term.
Not long term.
And this is impossible. It is impossible.
It's just for fun.
If you want to disagree with me, we'll go outside. We'll have a fight. But I did it, seriously.
And I wanted to add this too. I think this is good if you're just starting out with betting. I noticed this on the defensive side with props. Listen, I'm a cheap guy. I took the toilet paper from my Airbnb when I left this morning, okay? So let me tell you this.
You were the one. I knew he was from Pittsburgh for a reason, for God's sake.
We gotta catch up after this. But it's good to shop around. Your grocery stores, they are close in price. They have a set price, but now one's going to try to drop it by 2 cents, right, to get the customers in the door. So they have a baseline of where they want to be, right? That 975 versus 1,000 yards. That's very apparent, and that might swing things for you. One thing I want to say that I noticed, maybe it's not as apparent when it comes to your big-time players, but especially in IDP, what I've noticed is, first off, for defensive props, it's not in DraftKings until about Wednesday. You won't get Monday night. You won't get Sunday night. You'll get those preliminary Sunday morning games. At that point, that's when I'm calculating. That's when I'm crunching the numbers, looking at snap percentages, looking at stats they've accumulated. With any kind of betting that you're doing, what I've come to know is the earlier you get that bet in, the better odds you have, especially if it's your niche player. You got Marvin Mims. If you think he's going to start the year hot, 25 or more yards, that might be at plus 200. But you wait until Sunday at 11:30, that might be looking at even now. So getting these bets in early to me is, and also you'll see them fluctuate. Perfect example, Brian Branch, defensive back safety for the Detroit Lions. I might see it earlier in the week where he's at 5.5, and I'm going to say smash that under, right? Now, I'll preface it by saying we're going to expect this number to creep up. It's going to be at 6.5. I'm watching the odds. It's plus 110. Now it's plus 105. Now it's dropping into the minuses, right? So at some point, when you get minus 160, minus 170, then it goes to the next, it goes up one, the over/under. So getting those picks in early, it might work in the reverse hand. It might get the bet odds may get better, but to stay with it and know when it's an opportune time to place that bet. From what I found out is the earlier, the better.
Oh, okay. And so again, we kind of talked about that earlier with the betting 101. Sometimes you get lucky and the early numbers, the good numbers, sometimes it's not. But for prop bets specifically, as you were mentioning, sometimes those lines don't come out until the middle of the week, depending on what book you're looking at. And I would say my hard, fast rule when it comes to prop bets, whether it's taking a quarterback's passing yards or Caitlin Clark's assist or points or page or whatever, I really do study, which we all should be doing, their trends. I study, what they did when the Aces when the Fever last played the Wings, or the Aces last played the Sun, whatever. I studied those trends. I studied that particular player's trends, and when the number does come out, again, I'm not betting a lot of money, so I'm not gonna sweat to death a $5 or $10 bet. But at least I go into it informed, knowing what those players did in that last matchup and what they've been doing over the course of the past week or 2 weeks or so, and of course over the season.
It's a good point. Here's a way, and you can do this on paper, whether you're doing it with props or with games. Come up with your own system of making a number on something. This is a really good one. Open up a spreadsheet and say, here's what after you do your work, I'm not just saying to pull something out of your head. Josh Allen's passing yards this week should be 322. I'm making it up. The line comes out and it's 352. If you're making decent numbers over the course of the year, you have a good under bet there based on the number you make, whether it's for a prop or for a line on a game. But again, bad info in will produce bad info out. So I don't recommend you making these numbers and then just start firing away. But it's a great tool to use if you develop you dig up your, if you set up your own set of numbers and then watch where they come out and make check marks. Listen, here's my parameters for the differential I want. And you find that the numbers you're making are right. Now you got something, but you have to track it and know.
I was going to say, you could even do it in real life. We were doing it at the bar yesterday. So I was going to say, so I live in LA. I've lived in LA since I graduated from college. So I'm used to everything being exorbitantly expensive. So we're buying beers yesterday and drinks at the bar. And I was like, oh, this beer is only $6. Oh, this beer is only $5. So on and so forth. So I was getting the information based on what I was spending. And so then someone ordered an espresso martini. And so we were like, over, under, based on all the drinks that we've ordered, over, under. Is this martini going to be 10 and a half? It's going to be over, under 10 and a half.
She's betting in the bar.
And we were betting in the bar yesterday on. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And so you can take that same knowledge that you just mentioned and apply it in everyday life, and that kind of helps inform you how you are actually real time, taking in information and making good judgments based on your research, if you will. So you can do it on drinks as well. I just want to throw that out there. It was $10, and I had set the line at 10 and a half. So yeah, I was probably right. Yeah, I really was.
That just made me think of, and I have no affiliation with these people, so you don't have to feel like you have to go follow them on Instagram or anything. But there's this account called Handshake Bets, which is pretty hilarious. It's just like a group of guys who make ridiculous bets, and it's just great content. So I have no affiliation with them. Just if you want a few good laughs and you like betting, follow them.
Tracking, like I said, if you want to do it and you feel like you can't do it on a piece of paper and have it be accurate, I would never recommend not chopping for lines normally. But however, if you want to make your set of lines and then go ahead and bet $1 on the ones that are off, only in one book, at the end of the year, if you start with $100 and you do that all year and it has $78 left in it, what you were doing didn't work. But it's a great tracking method. Just if you want to do that, it works. So if you don't have the discipline to just do it on a piece of paper and you want something to track it for you, have your numbers ready. Bet your dollar on the ones that have the spreads that you think are off, and at the end of the year, see where the account that you started with $100 is at. If it has none left, I wouldn't quit your day job.
Quick question.
Yeah, that's you. Yep.
I was just curious, what proportion of your bankroll you dedicate to prop bets?
I know I do prop bets. But that's a great question. I don't do it that way. I spoke of bankroll in the last session. And it's a very simple formula for you guys that are new at this. No matter what you're betting, you have to have a designated bankroll, and I'll use $1,000 to start here. You don't have to do that. Just use it for my example. Never are you betting more than 5%, and that's even super high. So 2 to 3% of the bankroll goes towards a bet, which means $20, $30 if you're a $1,000 bankroll person. But it doesn't matter if you're betting props, or if you want to have two separate bankrolls, one for props, 1,000, one for straight, and one for something else. Do that. You'll see at the end of the year very quickly which one's working and which one's not, or if they're both not. But if you don't follow the strict guidelines of betting 2 to 3%, maybe a 4 and a 5, very rarely, you will go broke. I can assure you.
I don't dedicate a certain amount to just props. I don't. But tracking, as you mentioned, helps you just know what you're winning and losing generally. But I don't go into the season and say, I'm only betting 10% of my bankroll over the course of the season to just props, because I might not find props throughout the season, all season, that that helps me meet whatever that hypothetical limit is. So I just mix everything in personally.
So it's more of a feel.
It's more, yeah.
Have two bankrolls.
I don't have two bankrolls.
You can do two. If you're betting 50% of your money in props and 50% of your money, have two bankrolls. Split it in half so that you see what's happening. I can't preach enough over and over and over again. Understanding the knowledge of what you're doing, what's not working, what's working. If you're mixing everything together and you're not sorting things out, you're going to get confused at the end of the year. You're doing just props, right? But you know what's working. Defensively, he knows he's doing X, and he gave an overall number. But if you're mishmashing everything into a pot of soup, you're not going to have the knowledge of your own success and failures at all. So separate them. The line's 0.5 because it's unlikely. That's why. So I don't know about staying. You guys can talk more about the actual handicapping of that. I can tell you it doesn't matter what the line is. Is the line accurate, fair, and is there a softness in it? Is there anything advantageous in it? So I don't. To me, staying away from something means that you don't like the prop, and it's not to your advantage. But I don't think any line says, "Oh, don't play this one, don't play that one." It all comes down to your handicapping and what makes sense. That's what I think.
But I do know what you mean. Like, you will hear people, like analysts, say, "Oh, I'm staying away from that because of that." And I agree with you, where you just have to do all the research and figure out what best fits the research that you've done, or the stuff that you've read, or the people that you've listened to. I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to that, though. But I'm on the same page.
So when it comes to sacks, that's a very great example there of sacks. TJ Watt to get over half a sack, right? That assisted sack that's worth 0.5, you'll still lose with that. So knowing what the aspect is, when we talk about tackles, on the other hand, though, every line will be 6.5, 5.5. You will never see a clean line. So basically, you just interpret that if it's 6.5, I think he's going to get 6 or less tackles. Fewer, you take the under. More, you take the over, right? And for me, I'll say, going back to that Brian Branch example, hey, it's at 5.5 right now, smash it. But if it gets to 6.5, I'm out at that point. So coming back to your point of, knowing that setting that 325 yards, and now you get a, higher or lower line, and you dictate that based on your information. That's my limit to say, on this number, I'm out. But there's some times where it's 5.5. I might say I'm in until 7.5 till we get to 8. Now I don't think he's going to have 8 or more tackles. So things that are not interception, but like a sack, perfect example. Again, I would stay away from those. It's tough to call those. You won't find me talking about that. I'd be out of money real quick. So some things are part of the game, like tackles, but if it is that nitty and gritty, that's a turnoff to me.
The one bet I will make that's like that is anytime touchdowns. So like, one example from last year, Trey McBride, he had a ton of catches, wasn't getting in the end zone at all. We got to the end of the season, and I just was thinking, okay, they're going to make sure he gets a touchdown. He's not going to go the whole damn season without getting a touchdown. And when they got in the red zone, they were force-feeding him to try to get him that touchdown, and I won that bet. So that's not something that's going to come up often, but I just felt like, okay, they're not going to let him go all year without a touchdown, and it was obvious that they were forcing it to him, even if he was double, triple covered. The other thing I'll do with anytime touchdowns is like, if you got a player who like you just know he's gonna have a bunch of touchdowns this year. If he goes like 3 or 4 games in a row without getting a touchdown, then I'll bet that he's gonna get one. Like, just with the thought, like, okay, he's gonna get one eventually. And I don't know, maybe the professional gambler won't agree with that type of advice, but that's
the only part I don't agree with it. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. It might not happen, but you know what? I call that, and again, that's the due theory. He's due. You're due. It's like in golf. I'm due to hit one down the middle, and you hit another one in the lake. I mean, so while it may work 1 or 2 times, I don't think it. So I will disagree, but respectfully say you still are going to hit some of those.
I will say similarly in motorsports and NASCAR, I think like AJ Allmendinger has his over-under for races won at the beginning of the season, which you can't find the line anymore, but it was half, like it was 0.5 whatever. And I think most people would have taken him to have at least won a race because he is someone who races used to race really well on road courses, for all my NASCAR folks or my sports folks, but he has not gotten into victory lane this year, and that's an example of how that can come bite you in the butt. But with all the information about how he runs on road courses, most people would have taken the over on that. Instead, Shane Van Gisbergen has won every road course race this year, so every race that AJ could have won, SVG has won. So it totally depends. I didn't take the over on AJ's wins for NASCAR this season, but I know folks who did, and they're full within their rights to do that based on the information. It's a gamble, literally.
Listen, this is from a woman who's betting on the price of martinis in jerseys, for God's sake. No, she's great, and she's right. But she did. I've never. That is a first for me, and I wish I was there last night so I could have got in on the under, because there's inside information. I'd have known the price and beat her out of a drink. But see, there you go. That's cheating. But at least I admit I'd have done it. 5-minute call. Okay, and who else has a question? No more questions? Could be anything on sports betting. We don't have to have them be props. This is the open mic, 5 minutes.
I do want to say this. So I know we're talking about props. One prop that I find very interesting right now is Colorado's win total. So Colorado opened at 6.5 over under for their win total, regular season win total. Let me be specific. And then when all the news came out that Coach Sanders had a press conference and everyone thought, oh, he's going to resign, and then the line moved from 6.5 to 5.5, and it's been really fascinating to watch how people have now mulled over. Are we gonna take the under 5.5? Are we gonna take the over? So kind of goes back to your point about information. As more knowledge comes out, how the lines move, but you still have to either be you still have to be either confident in where you were before that line moved, and or try to find a way to hedge it later on. But that's one real-time example of how a line shifted in a major way in the opposite direction based on news that came out, and it's a prop.
Here's the prop I'm waiting for with Dion. I don't know if you saw that they put porta potties on the sideline as a result. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of his condition, but these offshore books have put out the craziest stuff. You're going to see how many times does Dion hit the porta potty in a game over under 4.5. And if any of you bet that, you should quit. That's pure degeneration. They have one on the WNBA, which I'm not going to. It was a very lewd prop. Did you see that one? It was a lewd one. They were throwing things onto the court, if you know what I mean. And they had a prop at Bet Online as to what the next one of those things that was going to be thrown out was. What color would it be? Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. It's real, and it's sick.
Yeah, I remember.
Did you have that?
I did not, but there. I would be the guy who would do that, but there. I remember not last year, but a couple of Chiefs Super Bowls ago. One of the books. I mean, of course, the Super Bowl is that's where you get every prop. There was one. Will Andy Reid eat a cheeseburger during the game?
I mean, really? Come on. It is funny. There's lots of props on those offshore books, crazy ones, even during the season. But I'm waiting for the Dion porta potty prop. It's coming, trust me. Any more?
Maybe about some linebackers. Who's going to lead the league in tackles? It's going to be Alex Singleton coming off that ACL. Averaged 10.5 last year in the 3 games he was playing. Even though he's coming back from that ACL, if you're looking for a futures bet, Alex Singleton's going to have the most tackles in the NFL this season.
Wow. You heard it here.
Yeah, I will add something. I think you touched on it, but we didn't talk that much about with prop betting, player props, like looking at the trends. And it'll give me another chance to plug the RotoWire Picks app because we show all the, every game that the player has played. It will show were they over or under that. So it's all in one spot to look at that. But another thing there are plenty of tools out there like that. The numbers will lie sometimes, so don't just follow the recommendations blindly, because like you think about, in a game like basketball where like if the star player misses a game, then of course like the second or third best player, their stats are gonna get a bump. So you have to think about that too. Don't just look at they've been scoring this many points every game. Make sure you're checking out the starting lineups, who has missed games, everything like that too, so that you're not misled in that way.
And remember, the sports books have the same information you do. So, and more. That's correct, with a whole bunch of algorithms and so forth. So to be able to stay on top, and if you did that 58% and you do it again, you're obviously doing something that they're not. And that's why I recommend tracking so much, so you can know if you're not or if you are. It's hard to do, but
I have one tip, if you will, when it comes to if you're betting on props like for the awards, for NFL awards. I know it's fun to get in super early on these awards sometimes, but sometimes it's better to wait until a player loses a few games or a coach loses a few games. One player that I talked about for a possible comeback player of the year is Dak Prescott. I'm not a Cowboys fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that the media loves the Cowboys, and anything that the Cowboys do on the positive front will continue to boost their visibility. So if you like Dak to be possibly like a comeback player of the year this season, next season, 2025, maybe wait until they get past the initial stretch and they lose a couple of games and watch his odds get lengthened, basically watch his odds lengthen, and then when they go on a little bit of a winning streak from, let's say, October to November, get in on those odds before they shorten again. So that's kind of what I do when it comes to props, when it comes to awards. Like, don't be so quick to hop on it now. Kind of wait till they have a losing streak and then get back in on it. Okay. Thank you, guys.